All right, and we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Multiverse Show, Season 5, Episode 23, to the greatest show on Mondays. We're going to go ahead and get things started because we got a lot of things to cover. But first off, your introductions. We have the Titan of Texas gracing us with his presence today, David Whitaker, a.k.a. Fame Entertainment. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, buddy. Hey, listen, I promise that I will be making sure that I am here more often because I miss my guys, I miss my bros, and I also miss the greatest show on a Monday. Yeah, buddy.
All right, we also have the Caesar of Cinema, the Baron of Britain, Mr. James Wilson.
Yes, fresh off my latest fight in more ways than one. Lovely to be back with you guys. Can't wait to talk about all the things.
All right, and we have the White Wolf himself, Mr. Samuel Tolbert. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing really well. I wish I was here to talk about better stuff under better circumstances, but I'm still talking about it with great people. So, you know what? That makes it worth it. Let's get this show on the road.
All right, and so the first question we ask every single week, what have you guys been playing? How have you been occupying your time? First, James, did you get a chance to play anything, or you been busy with fighting people, apparently?
Only one person, and that was because they were being a rude dick. And he also tried to hit me first, so that's fair game. No, I haven't been able to play anything new. I've actually, you know what? That's not true. I've been diving into Subnautica. There we go. That was an unintentional pun, but I don't regret it. Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about my love of like Lovecraftian horror and the deep seas anyway. So Subnautica seems like exactly my jam. I've just encountered maybe a ghost, so you know, I'm excited to see where this one goes. But yeah, and the usual bunch of Fallout, good boy, Fall Guys, F1 2021, and of course Apex Legends. Constantly playing it.
Right. Sam, get a chance to play anything?
You cut out, Anchor. We didn't know who you were talking to.
I was like, Fame, you get a chance to play anything?
Yeah, you know, I have been playing Gears Tactics, a game I thought I would never actually play. And it is amazing, by the way. And tonight I will be diving deep into Death's Door. I've heard nothing but amazing things. And yeah, so those other than what I'm playing tonight, it's been a lot of Gears Tactics and Rogue Company is scratching my multiplayer itch.
All right. And good stuff. For me, I've been kind of playing all over the board, as most of you guys have noticed at this point. I'm mainly at a weird point in my gaming life where it's like, okay, I finished a couple of games, and now I'm kind of just open to whatever. And I like there's games coming out I'm interested in, and so I'm like, all right, well, I can't like start anything super heavy, and I just gotta make sure that I actually have like time. And you know that weird in between where it's like, okay, you got stuff coming out, but it's like everything you have left on your to-do list is like a huge time investment, and you're like, I don't want to like start anything crazy before you jump into something else. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Totally. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm in that same kind of boat right now, where I'm just kind of like, I've just finished Psychonauts, so I was like, oh, well, Psychonauts 2 is coming out, and I really enjoyed Psychonauts 1. Like, even playing it, you know, from two generations ago, at this point, I had a blast. I really enjoyed it, man. And I started playing Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm about like a third of the way or halfway through it. I'm at Metropolis now. I'm getting close to halfway. I'm just like, I have no clue about this. I have never played a Kingdom Hearts game before, and I have zero idea what the story is, but I think I figured out a good chunk of it. I think it's needlessly complicated for no reason. So, just kind of an odd little scenario. But anyway, moving on. We actually have a couple things to talk about. This is going to be a interesting show because this is our spoiler cast for Loki. Please, I don't know what we're talking about. Normally, whenever Disney Plus does things, they don't normally drop the whole season all at once. They do spread it out like after week. And we understand, though, there are some people who they rather wait until all the episodes are out or watch it week to week. So as a general rule, we kind of wait about 2 weeks after it's over before we start going into spoiler territory. So the end of the show will be spoilers, and we'll talk about that kind of thing there. But other than that, we're going to delve into some of these gaming topics. Let's flip a coin real quick. Well, let's do a vote based on the three of you there. Which would you rather start with? Would you rather start with is it the good news or the bad news?
Let's just rip this Band-Aid off and
Rip
do
the
it.
Band-Aid off.
Elephant in the room. Let's just get into it and get it over with.
All right, Sam, you want to kind of explain this to people real quick in terms of what's going on? Because I know if I do it, I'm going to skim over too much. I think there's certain points of context.
I can, but I think it's important to note that even if I do, like, I'm still going to be giving the TLDR version for anyone who, if you've been living under a rock and you somehow missed all this so far. Yeah. Here we go. And I'm gonna try and be vague due to the nature of some of this stuff, but a general content warning that this is unpleasant. Like this stuff is legitimately unpleasant to get into.
Yeah.
Okay. Activision Blizzard. Big company, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, literally Activision and Blizzard, also King Mobile, Bobby Kotick, all that stuff. The state of California concluded a 2-year investigation, 2.5-year investigation into Activision Blizzard. The results were published last week in Bloomberg Law, and the state of California is bringing a wide-reaching lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. Among the many, many, many things in that lawsuit, there is a lot to go through. It generally boils down to a frat boy culture across the company. Extreme sexual harassment of female employees, minority women in particular, bantering about, stuff that you shouldn't be talking about in a workplace, jokes about rape, things like that. Women being denied equal pay, even when there's hard, documented proof. The state of California's investigators found that the women were doing more work in some cases, and they were still being denied these opportunities. There's one thing in particular that is extremely heinous. I really don't want to talk about it here, but you can go read the lawsuit. It gets worse than that. There was a cover-up of an employee who is no longer with us. I'll put it like that. Activision has been suppressing a lot of this stuff. So that happened. And then there was an outpouring where dozens upon dozens of women who used to work at Activision, they are no longer there, or at other studios, but have heard stories from people at Activision, or men at Activision who have talked about things they've seen, have all basically come forward and said, yeah, this is true. We can corroborate this. This is pretty much fact. From there, Activision Blizzard has so far given a very, very mixed response. J. Allen Brack, who is the president of Blizzard specifically, the Blizzard half of Activision Blizzard, came out and he gave a statement in an internal email to different employees, and he said he found the findings extremely troubling. Talked about how, he encouraged people to come forward if they have any stories that need to be shared, that they're not going to hide this kind of thing, et cetera, et cetera. Which is a little boilerplate, but okay, fine, whatever. He said it. He didn't say something wrong. We'll come back to him. However, Executive Vice President of Corporate Affairs, Francis Townsend at Activision Blizzard, gave a very, very, very different response publicly. And this was not to the company. This was to the company and press put together. And she referred to the lawsuit as meritless and irresponsible, and that the state of California has been distorting the facts. Mm-hmm. Then, on top of that, this latest development actually just happened today. An open letter is now circulating at Activision Blizzard where over 800 employees, almost 1,000 when you count some former employees as well, have signed a letter calling for immediate reform at the company, saying that they're disgusted with the response, that this thing needs to be treated seriously, and that they're basically just very, very, very unhappy. Any questions?
Nope, that's about as comprehensive as I was shooting for. So I just want to make sure we covered everything. But I'll let you guys talk first before we jump into this.
I felt physically sick when I was reading some of it. Genuinely, unease in my stomach. It was embarrassing. But the worst thing about it was the fact that I didn't know any of it personally, of course, but it didn't surprise me, and that's the worst part of it. We all sort of knew that this stuff was happening to that degree and to that many people. I personally didn't think it was that wide reaching, but I mean, there is widespread change that needs to happen within this industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not like pointing us as bad guys, but you know, we have never had a female guest on Multiverse, not for the want of trying. It just hasn't happened.
No, we've had female guests on the show before. Yeah, no big name people. But
I beg your pardon, I stand corrected. But that's not the point. The point is just, well, I don't really know. It's just fucking shit.
Men need to stand up. Men need to be doing more than this. Women are yelling and screaming, and they are begging to be heard. And just treat Here's the thing. I'm just gonna. I've been stewing over this for like the past week, essentially, since I first came out of the theater and I, saw my phone blowing up and found all this out. So I'm just gonna say this as bluntly and cleanly as I can. We don't harass you shouldn't be a selling point for a studio. That should be the bare minimum. That should be the floor.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam, what would you say?
So that should be expected. Like that's that should not just be not only a selling point, but that shouldn't have to be stated. That should just be understood.
It should just be accepted as fact. Like, I understand, like, there's a whole thing about, the pay gap and, women not being promoted as much and this, the whole bossy versus bitchy thing in the workplace, yada, 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 and all that is important. But, like, just basic, if we're going to boil this down to brass tacks, you should expect to not be harassed coming into a company. Like I said, if you want to read the lawsuit, you can. But I'm with James. I felt physically ill reading some of it. That's never happened before. I've read a lot of lawsuits. I've read a lot of allegations. We had a whole thing, essentially a Me Too for the gaming industry last year with Ubisoft and all that. Like, and some of the stuff with like Ubisoft is still ongoing. Some of the stuff with like Insomniac Games is still ongoing, much less than Ubisoft. This is the first time I felt ill reading through this. I censored a lot of it, but there is some stuff in there that is just. If a woman went through that and then said she wanted to quit the industry entirely, I couldn't blame her. I couldn't.
And I mean, aside from the stuff that's in that lawsuit, a video, I don't know if you guys saw this video surfaced from, I assume it's one of the BlizzCons, of a woman asking pretty high up people in the World of Warcraft team, hey, could we maybe have some female characters that don't look like Victoria's Secret models? And she was openly laughed at. And the response was, well, what catalog do you want them to look like?
Yep.
And it's just like cartoon villains aren't written that way. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Faye, you got anything you want to add to this, or?
Oh, okay. I thought I was still muted for a second. Hey, obviously, anyone with a stomach finds this absolutely disgusting, right? The only problem that I have with this isn't necessarily the lawsuits and things like that. It's the narrative that everyone's all of a sudden going to stop supporting Activision Blizzard, which they should, right? This is deplorable. If things that were allegedly said are true, which most of us are leaning that way, deplorable, right? I don't believe the gaming culture will truly stop supporting Activision Blizzard. It's almost as if everyone's going to forget that they were outraged as soon as the next Call of Duty releases.
Well, I know personally, I absolutely am not. I'm done.
And I totally believe you. I've been seeing it so much from
Overwatch
people.
2, fuck it.
And it's almost like you brought up earlier with Insomniac and Ubisoft. When was the last time you heard anyone still enraged about what's going on there, or saying, hey, I'm not buying the next Spider-Man, or I'm not buying Assassin's Creed? Like, they still went out and bought it, and things like that. No matter how this lawsuit ends with money under the table, or however it ends, the culture really won't change until people's pockets begin to hurt. And no matter what this lawsuit entails as far as money wise, you can't hurt their pockets like gamers can with them not actually going out and purchasing the titles, right? Anchor said something earlier on Twitter, and I don't know if I want to repeat it here. I don't want to make people put two and two together.
You know what? Go for it.
Okay.
Honestly, at this point, go for it.
I hope it's what I think. I hope it's what I'm thinking about, which I want to talk about too. Please do.
I talked about it on the last 2XP podcast, and I looked at my panel and I was saying, didn't Rod Ferguson and Mike Ybarra leave Xbox to go over there? Like it did. And when you're in a senior position, or you're going for a senior position, how do you not know what the culture is at the company that you're going to? It's not like you're going in as.
I'm gonna interrupt.
The
only person I could possibly see getting a pass would maybe be Rod Ferguson, and the only reason is because he left. He joined like end of February 2020, right before pandemic hit, and they started working from home. And it's
I'm not absolving him. I'm not saying he didn't hear things, but I will say, like, I'm on Ivan's side there. Like, he's the only executive I would maybe believe could potentially have not heard about some of this stuff.
Because if you're in a senior position, especially leaving one big company for another in a senior position, you have to know about the. Again, I always reserve the right to be wrong, but you can't tell me you don't look and see, understand, ask questions about the culture of the company. If I'm leaving my cushy job one for another one, I want to know about this place. And it's just hard for me to fathom that there was no inkling of what was happening at this place in a senior position.
Yeah.
Oh, to be clear here, Fame. I just want to be very clear. I'm talking about seeing stuff happen under him and not doing it.
Sure.
I'm not like what. To be clear, Rod absolutely would have had to have been told about the lawsuit. The investigation has been going on for 2 years. Every executive in the company was told this was coming. I'm saying I'm willing to give the most minute pass that maybe he didn't see anything happen under him that he should have spoken up about.
Simply just because of the timing alone, I'm more like 50-50 on whether or not Rod Ferguson like witnessed anything on that purpose. But Mike Ybarra, you left in October of 2019. Like, you knew about this to some extent.
Yep.
You could have possibly seen it.
Well, also, if you're joining a company at this high level, obviously you would know about this lawsuit and you know what the lawsuit is for, and you still join?
And you still joined.
Yep. And it's funny, too, because I was actually looking up, because I was like, when did Mike Ybarra go over there? And the funny thing about it, too, is like right afterwards, like in November, he has statements how he was like, man, I was just so jealous of all the people working over at Activision Blizzard. I've always wanted to be a part of that. And I understand you could read that wrong, but it's like the timing of the statement itself is after the fact he got hired, which ideally they would have told him about this before that statement goes out, because now I'm going to keep looking back at that statement knowing what I know now.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's just basic fact. I mean, the thing is, like, you can maybe... Whisper networks happen. How many times do we hear things about things that aren't even related to our jobs? They're just tangential at best because people blab their mouths. That's just how things work. That's just how human beings work. And that's about unimportant stuff. The important stuff, word gets around. Like, word just gets around. So maybe a rank and file developer didn't know an investigation was happening, but an executive, a senior in a leadership position, like you were told. There's no way you weren't told what was coming. And that is also, but I also want to just address the whole split, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, split personality response, where you have J. Allen Brack, who's always been the sympathetic face of Blizzard, right? He's one of the old school guys. He's one of the guys who's been there the longest. Maybe knowing what we know now, that's a problem. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not directly accusing him of anything. But you have him giving this, oh, we need to do better, this is disturbing email to employees. And then you have the PR essentially calling the state of California liars. Now, I'm not going to get into politics here, but I will say this. I've talked to some law students and a couple of like more legal-minded friends of mine. And they have basically said, yeah, if the state of California brings a lawsuit after an investigation, it means they think they have a slam dunk case. They think this is open and shut. The courts are going to clean their clocks out. So I don't know, if I'm Activision Blizzard, I'm not putting out a PR statement calling the facts distorted right now.
That's you got to do what you got to do, but this is the main thing I look at it as. And like Fame said, none of this is going to mean a hill of beans to anybody unless it hits them in the wallet. This timing is perfect for that purpose alone. Here's why. It's one of the worst kept secrets right now that Call of Duty is not in a good spot this year. And Activision is making nothing but Call of Duty. They have nothing else right now. Now, Blizzard, I mean, they got a remaster, and they got the delayed internal delay Overwatch 2 scenario, where that was supposed to come out last year initially, and now it's being pushed back to whenever. So we know that Activision Blizzard is not in a good spot right now. And Call of Duty still has not been announced. This is the longest it's ever been without any announcement of any kind about Call of Duty.
So because I'm so fact-minded, I have to point out that that's not true. Last year's Call of Duty was not announced until August 20th.
August 20th, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, we are getting really late this time, and it's not a good scenario. That's the point that they're in.
Yeah.
They are stuck. And we know that when this game, eventually when it does come out, now that whole release is going to be tainted by this news. Like, it's going to be one of the top comments you're going to see on every kind of trailer. And you have two big shooter franchises, mind you, that actually could take away points from this. It's kind of like the 2016 situation. They had a weak release with whatever it was, Infinite Warfare, and then Battlefield and Titanfall from EA kind of took away some of their market share. So it's a situation where now you got Halo and Battlefield both coming out, and it's a weird scenario for them to launch between. And not just that, but as we know with almost all these cases, they're not going to go to court this year. It's not going to be till next year. And that's, I believe what you told me, Sam, every time, is that's the one that's going to be done by Infinity Ward, and they're the only ones who actually have had the full amount of time in order to complete a project. And it's still going to be marred by this news. And it's going to be in court, and you're going to hear about this constantly. So this is great timing, at least for the purpose of trying to take away sales and value from them. So for them, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. But as we kind of know, gamers have very short-term memories.
Very.
Yep.
Very.
They are. They're very short-term. There is some stuff happening in the press that makes me the slightest bit hopeful there's going to be some pressure, but we do have other stuff we want to touch on, and at the risk of getting more heated, all I'm going to say right now is my hearts go out to the innocent rank-and-file developers who just joined Blizzard because they wanted to make cool games. I am rooting for them, as big as the odds are.
Yep. So I just... And all this is disgusting, but I think now we're entering the point where it's like, I'm going to need some of the more prominent faces to start actually making statements. Like, I'm looking at Mikey Barra at this point. Specifically, I'm looking at Mikey Barra because he has been very outspoken about all the other companies and other problems that they've had. Like, I see, for whatever reason, please correct me, I seem to remember this, but I don't quite remember the time frame. I know it was after he left Microsoft. He made a comment about culture at Microsoft and how they're like, oh yeah, allegations, whatever. I remember something kind of like that. And to see him move into here, where it's considerably worse. Just, I don't know. Do you guys remember anything like that? I don't know. Just... There was that period, like about a month after he left, where he just started like unloading on anything Microsoft.
When he was taking pot shots.
Yeah, it was around that time frame. And I remember him saying something about culture at Xbox. And I found it like, I was like, okay, random, and I didn't think anything of it until like last week. But I don't know. Just if you don't remember, that's fine. I just don't recall. I remember there being some weird statement there. But we'll keep you guys posted if anything major happens about this one, because this is something I think we do need to keep talking about. And like I said, because gamers have very short-term memories, we want to make sure people know about it, so the actual change can happen. All right, next little bit. Good news. Dead Space is back, baby. We're getting a remake. Where's James at? I know he's my resident. I almost said Resident Evil. He's our go-to horror fan.
I'm definitely an evil resident. I think that's fair.
That's good. That's good.
So yeah, I have never played Dead Space, any of them. I think I was like either a combination of a little too young or not interested when the first three came out. So I just have not played any of them. But from all the people I know and people who know me have said, James, go play this game, you'll like it. I'm very, very excited. I am. This is something I'm definitely going to dive into when it comes out. I've had some people say, this is speculation, that for them it's gonna do what Resi 2 did to the original Resi 2, the remake that is. So like it's little quality of life improvements and stuff like that. But then again, that is complete speculation. I don't know anything about it other than it's weird tentacle people in space with a really tender story, which is what people keep telling me. And I don't know if they're lying or not.
They're not lying. I think they might be a hair overselling it, but there is a very sweet story at the core of it. But I mean, we're talking about the core of it. It is a big, horror story. One thing that's interesting, to be clear, is that this remake is being done by Motive Studios. They've mostly acted in a support capacity at EA before. They did support on Battlefront 2 and stuff like that, but they did develop Star Wars Squadrons, the dogfighting game last year. And they have mentioned that this is a remake. So while that means they are trying to be faithful to the game, they are open to playing around with it. They've said there's things that they want to bring in from later entries in the franchise, like better anti-gravity controls. Because in the first game, you just bounce around, but the second and third added flying. So we might see flying added to the first game. There's other stuff that they've said they want to expand on. They want to expand on the characters. They want to expand on the story a little bit. So while it's going to be faithful, it's not going to be a one-to-one remake. And I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I personally have only played 2. I've only played not Assassin's Creed. I personally played Dead Space 2. For whatever reason, I think it was just because it was like, at the time, I was really iffy on horror games or even like playing around with that. And I always heard like Dead Space 2 was like the definitive experience. So I was like, all right, I'll jump into Dead Space 2. Well, I'll give it a shot. But I loved it. I had a great time. Like it, for me, it was more akin to like Aliens for me, where it was like, okay, it's enjoyable. It was fun. I had a good time with it. But it wasn't like nonstop, like, all right, we're gonna like super hard suspense. It had a lot of moments like that, but it was more action paced, but it had a lot of really good scary moments.
Yeah, there's a great journalist and wrestler called Simon Miller, and his entire thing was he hates horror games and all that stuff. He's a big nerd when it comes to that. Which is a weird thing to say, but anyway, yeah. But he says he can handle Dead Space because you get the shock of being scared, but then you've got like a huge gun, so you can counteract it.
Yeah, like for me, like I didn't like Outlast, or where it's like, oh yeah, you can't do anything against whatever it is, and it just feels cheap. But like this one, like it gives you a chance to like at least fight back a little bit, but it's still terrifying just because of the scenario, and it works. But it feels like it's like when you're playing like Resident Evil 7 or something like that, it's like, oh yeah, like I could fight off the family, but outside of like, certain events, I can't really kill them or anything. It's kind of like, so it feels like very relentless. But like with Dead Space 2, it was more you could fight back, but it was ultimately pointless because they're going to overwhelm you anyway in the end. But at least gave you like the semblance of being able to try. And I think I enjoyed that.
Right. It was also really cool because Isaac Clarke, the protagonist, is an electrical and mechanical engineer. So with a couple of exceptions, most of the guns in the game are actually like mining tools with all the safeties taken off. Like plasma cutters, tissue lasers.
I love the plasma cutter is like still one of my favorite weapons of all time.
It's iconic. It's very iconic.
Like it was a great weapon choice, and it really highlighted the ability of I guess game engine ability in this case, like of hacking off limbs and being precise and tactical with it. So I think that's something of value.
The only other thing I know about the game is that Isaac Clarke is named as such because of Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke.
Yep, that's correct.
Science fiction writers. That is my 2 cents on Dead Space. I'm done.
All right. But yeah, no, like we gotta get you on we gotta get you on Game Pass, man. Like they got all the games on Game Pass. Play them right now.
Well, I don't have a fucking Xbox.
Oh, we gotta figure that out. We gotta figure out how to do that. Get that done.
I really am considering it because I've just had an influx of cash from my work, and I'm just like, I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there.
What if we told you FIFA was included?
But like, you can lead with F1.
I could do that. Who makes F1 again? The Konami or
EA?
EA
Masters.
Oh well,
EA now.
Get Game Pass. Get Game Pass Ultimate included. EA Access. Good work.
Yeah. Well, mentioning Konami, can I quickly talk about eFootball?
Please. There's a reason why I mentioned it. Please do.
Yeah. So Pez is dead. Long live eFootball. This is the basically long-term replacement, and by all accounts, it's going to be free to play, which is crazy because we have not had a football game, soccer game even, go free to play yet. Not one of the major ones. And if this happens, it's not going to kill FIFA in one single game cycle, but like it could take a chunk out of EA's revenue. And Electronic Arts and EA Sports don't like losing money.
I mean, who does?
This is true, but famously EA money grubbers.
That's true. That's true.
I don't really have any other major updates for this, other than to comment on the fact that the song in the trailer was weird as hell.
Yep. All right. That's any other gaming topics before we start getting into? We have film stuff, and we're gonna go into Loki spoilers. Anything else? I mean, we're in that weird summer doldrum period where there's not a lot going on. Like it's weird. That's just kind of how things go nowadays. Anything else, guys? Hello?
I think that's it. I was thinking, man, but I think that's it.
All right. So here's the deal, guys. This is how we normally do this. We normally will start going into spoilers and stuff towards the end of the show. We're going to do our film corner section because I've actually watched shows that James actually told me to do. So I'm actually going to follow up with him as we kind of do a little BS work as we wait for you guys to clear out of here if you're watching live before we start talking about Loki spoilers. By the way, James, I don't know why you didn't tell me HBO Max had it, but I watched what's it called? Freaky.
Because I didn't know that HBO Max had it.
Oh, well, if someone told me it was on HBO Max, I would have stopped right there. I would have said, all right, closing the show early, and I would have watched it. So I watched that actually yesterday, and man, that was great. That was a lot of fun.
It's so fun. It's so much fun.
It's so weird watching Vince Vaughn pretend to be a little girl for so long,
But it's
and
brilliant.
then like the last 10 minutes, he's like being a serial killer. I'm like, shit. It's like I forgot he could be terrifying.
I know, right? Based on this, you now need to go and watch Brawl in Cell Block 99,
Is he in
where
that
he
too?
is just like
Oh.
all. Well, sorry.
I said he is in there. I thought I was asking you. So
Oh yeah, it's a Vince Vaughn joint, but like it's an action movie. It's not a comedy in any way. Well, that's not true. There's some really really funny bits in it that shouldn't be funny, but they are. But he's in it, and he's like a hitman, and he's been sent to this like very very specific like secret prison, Cell Block 99, to like kill someone for the mafia so his daughter can get saved. But like. There's a lot of violence in it, and none of it's fun. There is no fun violence in this movie. It is just brutal and like properly, like, you know, he knocks someone to the ground and then drags their face and then picks them up, and you see like a ruined face. It is intense. You know, I watched it at a preview screening at the London Film Festival a couple of years ago, and I was sitting next to somebody from Bloody Disgusting, the horror dedicated website. And they were going, Jesus Christ! So, you know, if it's messing up with them, you know it's bad.
jeez.
But Freaky is, I'm really glad you watched it. I knew you would like it.
Yeah, I had a blast, man. I really liked it.
It's on HBO Max. It's still in cinemas here in the UK. Go watch it. It's so good. Support Christopher Landon. He's awesome.
I'm working on Fear Street, Sam. I should be doing that this weekend. That's what I'm shooting for. I'm playing catch up on a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, all right.
That's fair.
I watched like yesterday I watched Dusk Till Dawn again. Still great. Like I love it whenever you like Dusk Till Dawn is my go-to movie for people who have never heard of it. And I'm always like, have you heard of this movie before? Like, no. So, all right, we're watching that then. Like, that's always so much fun because it just the twist is so great, and you don't see it coming at all. And it's so much fun. I love it. Baby, did you see Dusk Till Dawn?
He's gone.
He just dropped. I think he's got to
sorry, I just missed it.
help his wife with dinner or whatnot.
Yep. That's what he mentioned. Yep. But man, that is so much fun. I love that. But yeah. Any other movie stuff that's going on?
So I just saw a movie today that I can talk about that I think will interest you guys and our listeners.
Okay.
So it's called Guns Akimbo. I don't know where you can get it in the US. It's just been released on Amazon Prime in the UK, so it could be on Prime in the US. Double check that. Most people know this as that picture of Daniel Radcliffe where he's holding two pistols and looking like an insane person. So this is the movie that picture is from.
When did this movie come out?
Set in what?
When did the movie come out? Because that picture's been around forever.
I know, but that was a picture like taken like while they were shooting it.
Yeah, but I was saying,
it got delayed a bunch because of coronavirus.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's actually a picture for a long time.
I think it was supposed to come out like early 2020, and then just got pushed back. So like, imagine like the nuance of Black Mirror, but you're writing the script with like a sledgehammer. So it is just it throws subtlety completely out the window. It's about this guy Miles, who's a game developer. And he's a massive nerd. He's an online internet troll. That's his pastime. He goes onto websites and like trolls and comments and reports people for being rude. That's his entire deal. And he's got like an ex-girlfriend who's like the stereotypical multicolored hair gamer girlfriend type. There's a lot of like very very obvious in the movie that aren't problematic, but they're not exactly kind. And he gets on the wrong side of Schism, which is an online, basically murder website where you go and you watch people fight to the death. It's marketed in such a way that they have like a recurring killer called Nyx, played by Samara Weaving, who is the mirror universe version of Margot Robbie. Like,
Yep.
imagine the person who looks exactly like Margot Robbie, is Australian, grew up with Australian soaps, but only appears in weird B movies and horror films. And that's Samara Weaving, and now she's in this. And here's the weird thing about it, and I was doing research. From the company that created Power Rangers comes this movie. I am not
Saban?
kidding. Saban, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I
That's
know.
So random.
And then I looked up all the other films that Saban have like made in the past like 5-6 years. They're all terrible. They're all weird B C movies. It's so weird, apart from like the Power Rangers live action movie that came out in 2017. Okay, but enough about that. This film is not very good, but it is fun. And it's not like it's so bad it's good. It's just quite fun. It doesn't try to be good. It just tries to be entertaining. The visuals of it feel like you're playing like Warzone or something, or a game like that. It does something that not a lot of films do when it comes to like, you know how like for some reason in action films, bullets are just endless. People just have constantly just never-ending amounts of bullets. They very pointedly say that on each hand that Danny Radcliffe's character has a gun attached to it. There's 50 bullets per gun, so that's it. That's all he's got. He's got 100 shots. And they count down every single one that gets counted. So you're like, that's a running thing to go through the film. It was really fun. They name check Streets of Rage during the film. There's a fight scene where someone hits someone with a hammer and you see the bones break exactly the same way that you see in Sniper Elite. This thing is a video game movie that doesn't have a video game attached to it. And of course, it's made in New Zealand, so there's a Rhys Darby cameo, which I always appreciate. The closest thing I can compare this film to is Wanted, the James McAvoy, Angelina Jolie action movie, but this is even stupider than that. And they even reference the meme of Radcliffe holding the guns like that in the film, in like the way that he does it. It is ridiculous. It's very fun. It's about 90 minutes, just under. I can recommend it if you got like an actual good movie to watch that, but you can't really go wrong with this.
All right.
Nice. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, Kimbo.
All right, I'm interested. All right, so I think that's.
I mean, you'll watch
enough.
it, and you will think, I really want to play the video game that this is based on.
All right.
Only feeling I got.
Nice.
Wait a minute. I'm reading about it now. Hold up. All right, never mind. All right, so I guess we'll start talking about Loki, huh? It's been enough time. We can start getting into it. So before we start talking about like finale stuff, because I think leading up to the finale, because the finale changes, I think, a lot of the future of the MCU. Leading up to that point, what did you guys think of the show?
I really enjoyed it. It was really consistent. It was great having Tom Hiddleston back in the MCU. Think he does great. And since we can talk about spoilers, obviously, Sylvie is fantastic. A fantastic dynamic between the two of them. So I was really enjoying it. It was consistent. It didn't, for me, hit the highs WandaVision did, but it never went lower than WandaVision either. So
Yeah.
it was very consistent all throughout.
Yeah, I agree. I think because WandaVision built itself up to such a point that it could never ever do anything better than like the last couple episodes, and then the final episode was just three CGI 3D blodges of people throwing other CGI 3D blodges at other people, and it just felt really underwhelming to have all of this great build up and just end in a fight. But the Loki finale, oh hell yeah, it was exactly what I wanted. I love this show. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh,
On
yeah.
another thing of Tom Hiddleston, I mentioned this on my radio show, but I'm going to say it again here. After this, I am very comfortable saying that Tom Hiddleston as Loki is the best casting in the MCU. Not even a shadow of a doubt anymore. It was RDJ for the longest time, but now, anytime Loki is on screen, I am excited to see what's going to happen. And Tom Hiddleston, from interviews and like other films that he's done, he seems a very one-note kind of guy and quite a boring person. But when he puts that little Loki wig on, he looks like a child who's been told that he can be anything he wants. He looks excited at like just to be Loki, and that excitement rubs off on the audience. I think he's just fantastic in this. And and Sylvie's great. Richard E. Grant for his one episode is fantastic. Owen Wilson, take a goddamn bow. Who knew that kind of performance was in him? And even the supporting cast, Gugu and Bata Raw, was great. I will get on to Jonathan Majors, but hell yeah, I'm a huge fan of Loki. I like because I raved about how much I loved WandaVision on this show. Loki has surpassed WandaVision for me.
I'm actually in the same boat with you, James. Like I watched it and came away from it as WandaVision was fun for me because it was like, oh yeah, they're gonna do a different like era of TV for every episode. I thought for me like the gimmick was fun, but Loki was always like I couldn't really anticipate what they were gonna do the next episode, and I enjoyed that. It was fun because I didn't have to bother trying to think about it. And I loved seeing a bunch of just homage after homage after homage to just random things. Like the episode in particular, I think the Journey into Mystery, I believe, is the episode title. That is the one where they end up getting erased, and he comes across all the other variants of Loki. I love that. It was great.
Yeah.
Alligator Loki. Alligator Loki.
Yep. Because that was so much fun. And I think for me, like what really hit it even harder was when he's talking to his older self or his classic Earth 616 universe self. With that costume. And he's talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, what was your Nexus event? It's like, I just tried reconnecting with my brother. And I was like, damn it. I wasn't expecting that.
Yep. That one, it kind of got me, man. It kind of got me in my feels, honestly.
Yeah, it got too real.
Yeah,
have you seen the theory that Loki, the Richard E. Grant one, is the Loki that we know? Is the
like
one that fooled Thanos and got away?
Yeah. I don't know what we base that off of necessarily. Was there much evidence for that?
The only thing is like that he reached out with his left hand to strike Thanos, whereas Loki is right-handed. It's basically just all up on that.
Oh, it's just focusing on that. I thought they were trying to look for more of just like that. Yeah, it could be maybe. I don't know.
I mean, he does strike him with his left hand, so there is that. Maybe really he did that in every single Maybe he did that in every variation.
Yeah, I was like, what if let's see, it would be funny if like just think about there's a variant out there for Loki who's like, oh, you were supposed to be right-handed, not left-handed. Erased.
Sam, is Ivan cutting out loads for you as well?
A little bit, not loads, but he's cutting out a little bit. Yeah.
All right. So we talked about the Loki variants, which are all of them are very fun. President Loki, and like all of them backstabbing each other. Genius. Wouldn't have it any other way. Let's talk about Jonathan Majors. What a year he's had.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, I want to say
we didn't talk a lot about Lovecraft County and Lovecraft Country here. Watch that show. It's goddamn amazing, and it's not coming back for a second season, despite it getting tons of Emmy nominations. But Jonathan Majors, I love it when characters just sit down and talk. It never happens in the MCU, but we got it for ages in the Loki finale. I loved it so much.
Yep. What I found so funny about that actually was you talked about like, oh yeah, like that casting choice. So it used to be Robert Downey Jr. for you, then Tom Hiddleston. I love Jonathan Majors. Like he's great as Kang. I love it.
Well, he's not Kang yet.
Well, I mean, he is. He's just not the Conqueror. He never gives his
Well, no,
name.
so like, well, we didn't get anything name related. So for those of you who don't know, Jonathan Majors is confirmed to be playing Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man, which is coming out in 2023. So we've got time. The implication from this scene is that this is the most docile version of that character, and the Conqueror is one of the variants that has been kept away, but will not be kept, but will not be kept away any much longer because of what Sylvie did.
Right. Exactly, because he spells it out. He flat out spells it out and saying like, "Oh, you think what I did was bad? Trust me, my variants are worse, way worse."
Yeah, he even says like, "I've been called many names, the Conqueror."
Yep.
So he says everything except the actual words.
Of course, because they're saving that. They got to save that.
Yeah.
Also, it was a little CGI festy, but I got to say, watching the multiverse split literally at the end of time was nice. It was nice to see that happen. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. How familiar are you guys with Kang the Conqueror in terms of comics?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
I mean, more than nothing. I know a good bit, but like nowhere near you, Ivan. So take the lead.
I just know a little bit about everything. That's just what I shoot for. So
I mean, fair enough. Fair enough.
So, James specifically, Kang the Conqueror is.
I know he is a timekeeper. I know that is true.
Yeah. Well, it's more about like he was one of the Avengers like exclusive villains. What I mean by like normally with the Avengers, they didn't really do well. Most of the time with the Avengers, it was always like, oh yeah, dinosaurs have taken over New York. You need to stop the dinosaurs, or like just random stuff. They didn't really have like any of their own dedicated villains. Like no one who was created strictly for the Avengers. And Kang the Conqueror just kind of came out of that need of like, oh yeah, we need someone for this. And they kind of wrote Kang to be like this way of just like justifying a bunch of random scenarios happening. Like, okay, there's a random pharaoh named Ramatut who has also fought the Avengers. He was all the way back in the Egyptian period. Does this mean anything? Oh, actually, that was Kang the Conqueror who actually went back in time so he could live as an Egyptian pharaoh for a while. And it's like, okay, cool. Or it's like, oh, well, instead of the High Evolutionary bringing back like sentient dinosaurs, it was Kang the Conqueror bringing them back from the Cretaceous period. Like it's he's just kind of there to fill all these random roles they kind of created.
I mean, he sounds like Nyarlathotep, the Lovecraft villain.
Yeah, well, also he's like another character named Immortus, which is probably the closest to what we saw in the comics there, where it's like, well, not in the Loki show. He's probably the closest we got to it, where he's not really interested in conquering or anything like that. He's just kind of there to manage the flow of time. There's another one where it's like Carol Danvers gets pregnant with his son. Okay. And like his son self-conceived himself inside of Carol. Just random stuff. Kang the Conqueror was used for that purpose alone. Just the most random grab bag BS stuff you could possibly think of. Like just that's he was just all over the place. The idea was that it was always some variation of him or like a different part of his timeline. Most recent thing, in a part I want to point out specifically, the reason why I bring this up, I had to give you a little bit of backstory, otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Do you know who Kang the Conqueror's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather is?
I will guess at Galactus.
Nope. I'll give you a hint. Kang the Conqueror's real name is Nathaniel Richards.
Oh no, I did it. Yes, it's Reed.
Yep, it's Reed Richards' great-great-great-grandson.
I have heard this. Yes.
Yep. So
basically,
Okay.
You can't have Kang without the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, well, there's partially that,
Basically.
but more specifically, something they've been building up in all the rest of the MCU shows, the Young Avengers. They've been building this up constantly. For example, in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they introduced Isaiah Bradley and his grandson, Eli Bradley, who is Patriot in the Young Avengers. They introduced in WandaVision Billy and Tommy, who become Wiccan and Speed, respectively, in the Young Avengers. In Ant-Man, they introduced Stature, which is his daughter, who's also in Young Avengers. They've been building this up for quite a while.
Who is also going to be played by Catherine Newton from Freaky.
Oh my gosh. That's gonna be good.
Because she's the new Cassie Lang.
Yep. And the other one, in the original lineup of the Young Avengers, it was Patriot, Hulkling. They haven't done Hulkling yet, but I hope they don't do that for a little while. Give them a little break. Wiccan and a guy named Iron Lad. Iron Lad is not related to Tony Stark in any possible way. Iron Lad is Kang the Conqueror as a teenager, who realizes he's going to become the King the Conqueror, and decides he doesn't want to. So that opens up the door to me for a possible Young Avengers team with a young Kang the Conqueror existing as Iron Lad. So they are very clearly setting that up. And also Kid Loki is also another member of Young Avengers, but like the second or third iteration. So they also just announced him too. So
I can see it. I definitely see what they're telegraphing. That they want to move more into that, and they're laying the foundations, clearly.
I mean, what you just described, yeah, it sounds cool and everything, and all of that different wide-reaching stuff. I'm sure, and that works great in comics where you can have a bunch of different stuff like that. Are you worried that it's too much for a mainstream audience?
no.
No, honestly, not after Guardians of the Galaxy was a massive success. I've stopped doubting Marvel. They can sell it. They'll figure it out.
I mean, no character is too obscure for the MCU to make interesting. So, I mean, that's kind of at least my mentality on it. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you could get extremely confusing. But my thing is, like, it's happened so many other times in the comics, and it's definitely possible to adapt. And, like, remember the whole point, like, they've established with Loki is that, like, oh, you're going to come across a ton of variants of me. How hard is it to believe that there is a good variant of Kang? Well, I mean, it's not completely unbelievable, but anyway. Well, if you had a down part of the show, what would you think is the weakest part of the show for you?
The down part. So, like, I'm kind of scrambling to find something, if I'm being real, because I love so much of it. I would have to say the second episode, because the first one is introducing Loki to the weirdness that is the TVA. The second episode, however, is him trying to fit in with it, but not really, and it doesn't quite have the awesomeness that is Sylvie bouncing off of him yet. So I would say the second episode is probably the weakest. But again, I think the full thing is very strong throughout. It's only 6 episodes.
Yeah, I disagree, because I think episode 2 you have Loki really finding how many buttons he can push with Mobius, and I love that dynamic of like them going to the Ren Fair and them going to Pompeii and the
I don't think it's bad
alone.
I'm just saying I think it's the weakest. I think it's still good though.
I think there was a lot of people saying that episode 3 was bad because it didn't have a lot of action scenes in it, and to those people I say grow the fuck up.
Big time.
Lamentus is such a good episode. seeing Loki like singing that Asgardian folk song alone, that was worth the price of admission.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What worst things? I mean, I don't really have anything. Like, it's not perfect, but I can't I can't point at anything and say that was done badly. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't. But like, it's not a perfect show because it's a mini series.
Ivan, what about you? What do you think the weakest part was?
I thought the weakest part was actually probably the first episode. I mean, I understand it had a lot of world building to do in the first episode, but I never really got. I don't know. It didn't really set the right pace for me. I felt it was like, oh yeah, this is all set up in the one episode and not a really good judge of the show itself. Like, I don't know. For me, like, I think they could have done better if they like kind of condensed it all to like half the episode and the other half doing more like TVA life stuff, where it's more like, oh yeah, here's the process. You go, you call the branch, you do the paperwork, like you go here, you do this, like you basically do like a freebie one before jumping into it. But it's something to establish what is the normal operating procedure. Like, I understand they kind of like, they try to shorthand that by doing, here's the cartoon segments with Miss Minutes, which, by the way, Tara Strong as Miss Minutes is absolutely great.
Fantastic.
That was a
Tara
great
Strong
AI. Loved it.
Just about everything she does.
Yep. I love that too. Like, that was great. But I felt like there was a different way to do the first episode that would have worked better for me. But I understand why they did it, because they wanted to just like get all the boring stuff out of the way first. But I think it needed an episode of boring stuff to establish it. But once the show gets rolling, you really can't do that anymore. So, but like for me, like I got an idea of how the TVA worked roughly, but I wanted a little more detail. Like, more of like a stop and smell the roses. Like, why is Owen Wilson so good at his job? Like, I'm just curious. I want to know, like, why is he so good at this? Like, is it because he's been here forever? Like, how long has he been doing it?
Have you seen someone done the edit of like the car that he's driving in the void as Lightning McQueen? All the different Owen Wilson variants.
Oh god, that'd be funny. It's
I mean,
funny
he
because
literally
actually
did in the show. He literally did turn right to go left. He literally did that.
yeah. It's funny because right after I finished watching that, I watched Cable Guy, and I saw Owen Wilson in that. I was like, damn. Like, by the way, that movie is just so weird because there's so many comedians in that. Like, before they blew up, even people they didn't intend to blow up blew up.
Well, that's Ben Stiller's entire thing. He just fills them.
Oh no, not even that. Bob Odenkirk's in that too, and he only gets like one line of dialogue. David Cross is in it and gets one line of dialogue. There's just tons of people in that movie. We'll talk about that later at some point, I guess. But it's just so weird. Like, they fit so many people into that. But anyway,
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to the music in Loki, because the music in Marvel films is good, and like outside of like the Avengers theme and Portals and that stuff, I wasn't a big fan of the music of Black Panther. I know a lot of people love it, but it just didn't do it for me. I think the music for Loki is so unique and interesting and brilliant. And Natalie Holt, fun fact, about 4 or 5 years ago on Britain's Got Talent, Natalie Holt was there playing viola, I think, for a string quartet, accompanying like the main singer. And she got up from her seat, had a bunch of eggs, and just started throwing them at Simon Cowell. That's a real thing that happened on live national television in the UK, and now she's the composer for the Loki show.
wow.
But I want to give a shout out to that music, because a good friend of mine, a guy called Charlie Draper, is the theremin player for the entire soundtrack, and he's awesome. And like theremin is all over that thing.
Nice. Good shout.
All right.
I think they just released episodes 4, 5, and 6 online through Spotify. Like, go and listen to that soundtrack. It's great stuff to work. Like, if you're trying to be creative, it's nice and backgroundy, but not in a too background way.
All right.
Loki good.
Loki good. Loki very
Loki,
good.
I think we can settle on that.
Loki's high key good.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap things up here. Any closing thoughts?
I'll talk about the Bad Batch, another Star Wars nerdy geeky thing when it finishes, because last episode is coming out this upcoming weekend, so I'll probably talk about that next week, if that's all right with y'all.
Sure. Sounds good.
Ted Lasso is just season 2 has just started on Apple TV. It continues to be the absolute nicest show on television. If you aren't watching Ted Lasso, you don't even need to like football or understand football. Please watch Ted Lasso. It's just so good and nice. And sometimes you just need nice TV, and that's what this is.
Nice. I've been hearing good things about that.
All right. All right. Let's do our outros. Sam, where can the people find you, sir?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert, recently verified, by the way, which means I have the same obnoxious tweets, but now with a white check mark. Pretty cool.
You got verified? Did I miss this?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, go check my tweet. Go check my pinned tweet. Go check my pinned
He
tweet.
is
Dude.
verified.
Yep.
Damn it.
You will know the false
He
shepherd
grows
by
up
his
so
mark.
fast.
I carry the false shepherd's mark. I will lead you astray.
So next time
okay.
Twitter goes down, you're the first one to know.
Exactly. Oh my
Yep.
god.
When they hack all the verified Twitter users again.
Exactly. You'll get me to shut up when that happens. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's gonna be great. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter sharing thoughts and updates and stories and anecdotes and all that. And when I'm not on Twitter, I'm usually playing or writing something on Windows Central. So yeah.
James, where can people find you, sir?
Yes, you can get me on the tweets at James_S Wilson. Come and talk to me about the ideas for SummerSlam, for WWE, what's going to happen there. Talk to me about Radiohead, always have to talk about that. And you can also listen to Culture Corner with Matt and James on Radio Harrow at 7 p.m. British Standard Time every Friday.
All right. And you can find me, Ivan Seiler, at Anchorman V2 on Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. You can find me on Twitter at Multiverse Show. Yeah, very straightforward. We've been doing a show with Nicholas Downey from Multiverse Show. We're doing a show called Cheat Code Radio just for fun. We drop that on Friday mornings. Come check us out. A lot of fun. All right. We're going to get things out of here, but thank you guys for tuning into the Multiverse Show, the greatest show on Mondays, and we'll see you guys later.